Hey Barry. Hey Janine. Thanks for joining us. Hey Amanda. Ready to talk about goals? Hey, curious, have you been hitting your goals for first quarter, looking at the year and maybe wondering, right, why am I not hitting my med spa goals? I was so optimistic at the beginning of the year, but the results are not happening. And most importantly, I hope you're here today to figure out, okay, now what? How do I fix that? How can I be, I like to say, a goal digger and go after those goals, but strategically, methodically, so you actually hit those goals at the end of the day. Because guess what, guys? Here is the hard truth of why you are not hitting your goals. And the most common reason that I see is because you are focusing on the wrong things. So today I'm going to be giving five different tips that you should really have some self-reflection and look at in order to take the necessary steps and action so you are achieving your goals. All right. So I wanted to share a little story here because I spoke to a med spa owner yesterday who really was stuck month after month. She had set a big revenue goal for her, right? She wanted to get to $150,000 a month in revenue. And she thought, okay, 150K, that means I need 300 appointments, I need 100 in my membership, and let's go, let's do it, right? But no matter how hard she pushed, she never could quite hit the mark. And she was so frustrated. And each time, each month, each quarter, she failed month after month. So, does this sound familiar at all to you? Right. And maybe that goal looks different. Maybe you're on the hunt to your first $1 million a year. Maybe you're on your hunt to your first time hitting six figures a month, right? Maybe you're on the hunt to do $250,000 a month, right? Whatever it may be, we've all been at that point where we've set a goal and we just kept running into that brick wall and we do it over and over again, expecting a different result, right? Isn't that the definition of insanity, right? So the problem wasn't her ambition, her work ethic. She was showing up every day. She was working her ass off, guys, right? Just like you do. The problem was she was focusing on the wrong things, right? It was all about the outputs, right? What number can I hit, right? What and achieving that just big goal, the outputs. But instead, we need to be focusing on the inputs, right? And what I mean is this person was measuring success by the end result only, right? Instead of the daily actions, the activities, right? That need to get done in order to achieve that end result, to create that opportunity for you to actually hit that goal. Okay. So let's break down what that looks like, what inputs you really should be focusing on. So, as I was thinking about today's call, I came up with really five core things that I often find med spas missing the boat on why they are not achieving their goal, why they're missing it month after month. Okay. So the very first one is that they don't have clear goals, clear direction, clear plan of action. It's very generic. It's very high level, very 30,000 foot view, right? What that example of that may sound like is like, I want to grow revenue. I want to get more new clients in the door. And the reality is that you're setting yourself up for frustration by those generic goals that you have, right? Instead, we want to really define exactly what success looks like and break it down into a bite-sized, manageable, and here we go, guys, trackable milestone, right? So instead of saying get more clients, how about track how many consultations you book daily, right? Instead of saying increase memberships, measure how many people you recommended the membership to, right? And do you see the difference on what input you're focusing on versus the output? Remember, output is the result, input is the activities you need to do in order to achieve that goal. Okay. The next thing is that you have to have strategy over hustle. And I often find high performer business owners and providers that don't understand that what it took for them to get to their first million, right? Or six-figure month is not what it's going to take to be a multi-million-dollar med spa, right? Just you hustling and grinding isn't going to get the job done at the end of the day. You have to work smarter, not harder. And I can remember very early on in my career, I was of the belief that I could just outwork any problem. I could outwork any person, right? And get the results that I was after. So I hustled, doing it all. And when I look back over those years, I would describe my efforts of pushing a rope up a hill, right? And I wonder, why was I not getting the results that I was after in the time that I wanted them? But then again, right, I wasn't tracking which efforts were actually generating me the greatest outputs. I was just throwing mud against the wall, hoping something would stick, trying every little thing, moving every little lever, right? I had no real strategy in place. And the moment that I really analyzed my actions, my inputs, what was bringing me the most leads, the most sales, what was attracting the best talent, right? What was converting the best, I started making smarter moves instead of just moves. Now, I will credit having 4 babies in 6 years in my 30s really made me take a real hard look at how I was showing up in my business, forcing me to work smarter, not harder. So we all have those great things that happen to us in life that cause us to really have to do some self-reflection on ourselves and the way that we show up. So, for me, it was having 4 kids in 6 years and not wanting, motherhood to sacrifice the growth of my business, the result of what I was getting for my clients. So I had to work smarter, not harder, right? I had to be strategic. So audit your strategy, guys. What's working for you? What is a friggin' waste of time? And then you adjust and refine. Okay, the next one is that you have to be relentlessly consistent. Okay, a common mistake that I see with med spa owners is they start really strong. They're pumped, they're jazzed, but then it trickles off, right? They don't stay consistent at the end of the day, right? And they're on fire in month 1, right? They're posting, they're showing up, they're doing daily huddles, they're doing one-on-ones, they got their KPIs, they really know their numbers, they're doing advanced training, right? And then what happens next? Life gets busy, or maybe we don't get results as fast as we want to. Maybe a fire pops up that needs your attention, right? And then what happens is that those inputs, that activity slowly dwindles, right? And then you're like, oh, I tried it, it didn't work, right? That didn't work for me. And the reality is that it's not rocket science, right? There's no magic formula or potion, but most practices aren't willing to show up consistently long enough to get the result that they're after. They way overestimate what they can achieve in a day, a week, a month, a quarter, even a year, right? But the best of the best, right? And there's a few small lucky ones that have that instant, immediate, overnight success, right? But those are few and far between. Most of the practices that are doing multi-million dollars a year, right? That are doing 3, 4, 5, $10 million a year, it wasn't an overnight success. It was a grind. They had to show up every single day for years, right? Before it clicked. I mean, I can remember in my business alone, how for years I was stuck in one place because again, I was just throwing mud against the wall. I wasn't being strategic, right? I wasn't duplicating myself. And so you have to think about your strategy, right? And continuing to refine that, but then to show up consistently to get that end result that you are after, right? And so another great one is you got to be willing to do the hard stuff. Because let's be real, like the most uncomfortable tasks, that's usually the ones that move the needle the most, right? So part of my decision-making process, so my business partner and we have a decision-making process for our business. And one of those metrics is if it's hard, if it's uncomfortable, if we're trying to avoid it, then we really take like a second look at it, right? Because we're like, ooh, that's probably what we need, right? For that growth that we're looking for us to hit that goal that we're after, because it's natural, right? As your body's like physical reaction to like, ooh, I don't want to do that when stuff is hard. It's like a protection mechanism, right? But if you can, take yourself outside of that feeling for a minute and look at a 30,000-foot view or talk to someone else about it, then it's so clear oftentimes that uncomfortable conversation, that hard task or SOP that you need to have or to make or to do is likely exactly what you need in order to achieve that end result or goal that you're after. And we just keep avoiding it because it's hard at the end of the day. So for example, and maybe that's with your team, right? They avoid doing the follow-ups because they don't want to feel like they're too pushy, right? They're not upselling medical grade skincare or into the package or the membership because they're afraid of rejection, right? They skip creating content because they are not having the perfect hair day, or they don't like what they're wearing that day, or they're not exactly sure what they say because they're afraid of looking bad, right? They have a perfection complex, like so many, especially women, have in aesthetics, right? I've been there. I've been with all of these things for myself and for my team. But the hard stuff is what is going to get us to that end result that we are after. The practices who win are the ones who are willing to do the hard stuff, who are willing to have the difficult conversation. And if you're someone that has done hard things in your life and had difficult conversations, you know how great that feels once you get to the other side. And when you utilize that muscle on a regular basis, you start looking forward to those uncomfortable, difficult conversations, those hard tasks, because what's on the other side of that is exactly what you are after. And you can remember those endorphins that you felt after you did hard things, right? And so pretty soon, hard things are normal things, right? And that's what a business owner, a leader, a practice manager has to be willing to tackle and to demonstrate that example in your practice so that your team members are also willing to do hard things, are also willing to have difficult conversations. All right, speaking of difficult conversations, now let's next move on to your mindset. Because oftentimes I see practices not hitting goals or being stagnant in their growth because of the ceiling, that invisible ceiling that they've created them for themselves in their mind, right? So if you or your team is constantly doubting yourself, avoiding risk, wanting to wait for the right time, right? You're really slowing yourself down. And whether that's us speaking to a business owner, a practice manager, or us speaking directly with a front desk or a provider, I can't tell you what a large percentage of the time is the mindset is what's holding a person back from achieving their goals. It's so undervalued, and the amount of time spent on this element is just highly underrated. And that's why I wanted to end with that because I think it is wildly important because you will only be as good as what you allow your mind to believe that you are worth or capable of doing. Any goal that I set for myself or for my team, I absolutely write it out as if I already achieved it. When I'm thinking about like, here's my goal list that I look at every single day. I write it out as if I've already achieved it. And when I'm thinking about it, I think about it in the future as if it already freaking happened, right? Because your body doesn't know any different. Your physical body doesn't know anything differently, right? So when it starts to believe that you're worth it, that you've already done it, your actions to live that, to be that, to feel that will immediately follow, right? So now all of a sudden showing up consistently is difficult. Now all of a sudden seeing opportunities presented to you is not missed, right? Like how many times when we have a provider, a laser technician, a front desk that we just can't get them to sell medical grade skincare, right? And they're like, oh, well, you know, she wasn't a good candidate. She couldn't afford it, yada, yada, right? And I'm telling you guys, it's always a mindset thing that's preventing them from being able to sell more medical grade skincare. But we spend too much time talking about, well, these are the ingredients and this is what treatment you should couple it with. And all of that stuff, guys, is really important. But the biggest mover of the result for that, right, is what's happening up here to get them to feel more confident in seeing those opportunities and closing the gap, getting that commitment, right? So we got to spend more time on working on our mindset, right? And then all of a sudden what happens is, you know, I see it all the time. The most successful med spas believe in their ability to figure anything out, right? Nothing is impossible. So what happens is all of a sudden your self-talk, it shifts, right? All of a sudden you have no tolerance for people that are not on the same level and mindset as you, right? So what happens is you surround yourself with high performers, right? You take action even when you don't feel like it. We talk a lot about that with my team of what it takes to show up confidently for ourselves, for our team, for our clients, even when we don't feel like it, right? And to wrap your brain around that and trick your body into being able to show up consistently, even when you don't feel like it, that's when you are going to just hit your goals, right? And hit your KPIs, right? And just knock them out of the park. So, okay, so how do you apply this to your med spa right now? Okay, let's break that down a little bit. So instead of obsessing over revenue goals, right, which are important, right? But we need to start first tracking the actions that we know has to happen in order for us to generate that revenue, right? Create those opportunities for client revenue. Okay, so what does that look like, right? So let's look at consultations, right? Instead of, again, we're breaking it down like each of the different levels that need to be focused on to ultimately impact revenue. So let's look at, you know, how many new consults are we booking daily? How many past clients are we reconnecting with to increase number of visits and average spend per patient? How often are we posting, sending texts, sending emails? Are we asking our happy clients to give us referrals, to, you know, give us a Google review? Let's think about your membership and upsells, right? Are we educating our clients on long-term treatment plans? Are we making sure that the provider is making a recommendation of, I want to see you back here at this date before they check out, right? And now all of a sudden, because we're focusing on very specific activities that we know at the end of the day is going to impact revenue, now all of a sudden when we do those with consistency, not only are we going to gain more confidence around that, right? But it's going to impact revenue at the end of the day. So Another example, if your goal is 50 new memberships, focus on how many people you're actually talking to about memberships. How many people did you recommend it to? Because now you can start tracking conversion rates at the end of the day as well. So you're not just like, oh, we only got one today. Oh, we only got, 5 this month or this week, right? How many people are we talking to? And then we can look at how many people we actually closed. And then we can see, right? Do we need more opportunities of people we're talking to, or we need to get better at getting the commitment? And that helps you to begin thinking more strategically of where do we need to plug the holes in our leaky bucket to get a better result that we are after at the end of the day. Okay. So for your membership, right, track, consultations you're offering, how many follow-ups you're doing, how many DMs you've personally sent to past clients, inviting them. So you want to focus on the inputs, right? The activity that has to take place in order to achieve the result that you are after, which is that output. But too often, the business owner, the practice manager, work really hard to set these goals and these targets. And then when their team doesn't hit them, they're like, we suck, right? Oh, again, another month, we didn't get it, right? And then so they either give up or they lower the bar. Neither of those are good answers, right? Your team, they want to do good. They want to hit their goals, right? They want to generate more revenue for the practice because it's going to mean that they're going to get better results for their patient. It means that there's likely more revenue coming in their pocket as well, but they just don't know how. So it's your professional obligation as the leader, as the business owner, as the practice manager to set your team up for success and have these conversations about what inputs, what activity that they should be focusing on for us to hit our goals, right? Speaking of revenue generating activity, we have a great free training, 99 revenue generating activities that you could be doing when there's gaps in your schedule, right? So whether you have downtime at the front desk, if you're a provider, if you're a practice owner, we would love to share with you our free training, 99 revenue generating activities you could be doing when you have gaps in your schedule. Comment 99, and we will be sure to send you a link to that free training. And it's such a great conversation to have. Again, it could be your front desk, it could be a laser technician, it could be a practice manager. We have them subcategorized into, fine-tuning your skill set, into re-engaging past leads to come in again, into following up with past patients, social media, right? There's so many different levers of activity that they have 100% control over that they could be doing to help contribute to the growth of the practice. But if we're not having these conversations, if we're not holding them accountable, then at the end of the day, you're going to keep getting the same result month after month of, we didn't hit our goal again, right? And so we got to work smarter, not harder. We got to have these great conversations with our team. My friend Fonda, she is my guru of gardening and planting and whatnot. And she has this great analogy around focusing on outputs is like standing in a garden begging for flowers to grow, right? So if we're just thinking about, here's my target, here's my revenue target, right? Go team, go, grow, hit that target, right? Versus focusing on the inputs is like watering the soil, right? Pulling weeds, giving it sunlight, giving your garden sunlight, right? And when you put in those inputs, right, consistently, that's when your flowers are going to grow. That's when you're going to hit your goals, right? Because you did the work, not because you wished it to happen, right? You got to show up and you got to do the work. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for any questions. But in essence, guys, right, bottom line is if you want to hit your goals, right, success is absolutely inevitable if you focus on the right things, right? There is no way you can't succeed if you focus on the right things. You have the right strategy. You're showing up consistently. You're focusing on those inputs, right? And releasing yourself from that result, right, at the beginning is what's going to help you to show up consistently and increase that ceiling of what is actually possible. Okay. And when you shift from, well, I hope we hit our goal, right, to I know exactly what I need to do to hit it every single time. Now, then you'll be able to really make it happen. All right, guys. So any questions before we wrap up? Thanks, Bianca, for joining us. Some new faces here. Awesome. All right, guys, go and really sit down with yourself and your team and think about why you are not hitting your goals, right? Are we not showing up consistently? Are we focusing on the output, the end result, and not enough on the input? And what activity that we got to consistently show up every single day in order to get that end result that we are after, right? What is it that is holding you back from hitting those goals? And a lot of times it's up here. It's that invisible ceiling that we've put on ourselves that we have to work through for ourselves and or team members, right? So don't forget about the mindset, because I can't tell you how I've seen it hold practices and team members back. I can't tell you even for myself, right? It's a lifelong journey mindset, right? Like one day I can be up here and the next day down here. So even if you feel like you are a confident person, we all have those ebbs and flows around our worthiness, around our confidence, right? And so it's really important to always to come back around and really check yourself and seeing if you're showing up your best version in order to set you and your team up for success. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me here. If you loved this training, make sure that you share it with your team, okay? And to take action, right? Just as showing up and listening, right? Like that's step one, but now it's about being an action taker, applying the information that you learned today into your business, yourself, your team, that's going to get you the results at the end of the day. All right, guys, catch us on all our social channels, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And we'll see you back here next week, same time, same place. Bye, guys.